We are ready to start. Hello, everyone. I'm Alex, and I'm talking to you on behalf of Plant and App. And welcome to the webinar. Tonight, we have the pleasure of talking about digital onboarding. It's a very cool term in our day and age. And we have with us not only Reza, which is our actual host for tonight, and he'll be guiding us through the ins and outs of digital onboarding. But we also have a special guest, late minute entry, Bogdan, our CEO and founder. And I'm sure that a lot of people, especially from the DNN community, already are very familiar with Bogdan's work and also his presence. So welcome everyone. I hope you have a great time tonight. I'll just take a couple of minutes. So the agenda for today, we'll keep it at about an hour. After I just give you a few words about what low code is, because not everyone may be familiar with it. Reza will talk you a bit through what digital onboarding is and why it's so important in our day and age. And then we will actually go into some actual practical showcasing of digital onboarding, showing you some cool use cases from Plant and App, and done with Plant and App. And at the end, we will have time for a Q&A session. Feel free to, at any time you want to ask a question, just put it in the Q&A of this Zoom meeting. You will be able to put them from the beginning of the webinar, and we'll get to answer most of them, or at least I hope all of them. Whatever doesn't get answered, we will follow up on that. So just a couple of quick words on low code. I'm sure there's a lot of people that know the hype around it. It may also be a new term for some of you, but it has been here for a long time. It was just not called low code. The evolution of the term just got us into a world where low code is very popular. It's growing, and it's growing quickly. And there's no better validation for that than Gartner, which are predicting that just a couple of years, almost 2/3 of enterprise application development will be done with low-code platforms. And yeah, that's neat and great. Maybe just give you a few words about what low-code is. There's a lot of complex definitions for it. Basically, it's we nailed it down to a list of things that low code is, and that we know for sure. It is definitely a more visual way of building apps, business apps. It does rely on reusing pre-built components and technology. It does minimize coding, but we like to think that it minimizes the kind of mundane tasks that developers don't want to be spending their time coding on, and leaves them time for complex coding. There is this phrase, which is very polarizing. Anyone can build software. Yeah, anyone could build, but not everyone should build. But this is something that you will hear in low code. And what it definitely is, it's about building applications faster and enhancing collaboration in companies. So involving all kinds of users, not just developers. But there is a place for Plant and App and this world of low code. And we like to call ourselves the only app development platform for software engineers. At least the only app development platform that includes them from day one in the process, because we kind of build our product around giving software engineers something that they can actually use, a big Swiss Army knife type of tool, more than just a toy, which would be described a good description of how engineers look at other local platforms these days. And basically what we like to do with Plant and App, we like to take things that developers need and use, like even something as simple as deploying a line of code. We know that that's in its own a thing that can take weeks in a big enterprise. And we make it take a matter of minutes. And that's, I think, part of our the special sauce of low code. And one special thing about Plantain App is that we focus on complexity, on complex apps. Being this close to developers, we are the enablers of complex systems built with low code. And that's why we chose for today. That's why we chose the topic of digital onboarding. And we have with us Reza, which is the best evangelist of local that we know, and he's leading our strategic delivery and innovation efforts here in Plantain App. But he's also a former VP of strategic delivery on the client side at Equifax, where he had to use low code for a lot of modern challenges of modern enterprises. And he's the best person to give you both a business perspective and a technical perspective into low code. So I will hand it to Reza from now on. He'll be guiding you a bit through what digital onboarding is and through some actual examples.
I have myself muted, right?
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Depends where in the world you are right now. Appreciate you taking time. I know there's a lot going on these days and a lot of webinars and things like that. We put a lot into this one. It's going to be really packed with good information, covering a lot of topics, part technical and low code, what Alex was talking about. But I also want to speak a lot about some best practices and pitfalls to watch out for when you're digitizing, right? And so really digital onboarding is really business process automation. And it's not just about using technology, but it's about enabling people and freeing up their time to work on things that are actually value add and not manual repetitive tasks that can be very error prone and things like that. So I have a lot of experience in this space. People that have worked with me, we have a kind of a saying that they've coined, RPT, which stands for Reza Passion Topic. And today there's 3 of them that we're going to cover. Low code, software development, and automating process and simplifying things and making them better. And so really happy to kind of bring all that together. Try to not overload you. We'll have some takeaways and things at the end. So if you're taking notes or something, don't have to worry about that too much. We'll have some good things we send out afterwards. Next slide, Alex, please. So first thing you really want to consider is who are you onboarding? What is the space? And we say, digital onboarding, but what do we really mean there? It could be employee onboarding in an HR system. It can be new clients that you're getting. It can be partners, and that's a little bit what we're going to show in our example today. And there's a lot of other ones. You can be bringing assets and software into your organization, and you have a lot of steps that you need to go through, right? Approvals, making sure that the right people are getting touched and access to things at the right time. And so just know that this space and the example we'll see today really is applicable. The data you're going to see, it doesn't matter that it's partners. It can be insert your use case there, and it's pretty much the same thing. The key thing, besides thinking about who you're onboarding, is why. Why are you doing digital onboarding? It needs to not just be about the technology, it needs to be about the outcome. And it's about simplification. You looking at where we have pain. So don't just recreate more of what you have today and automate what you have today. Take a minute and really think what you want the world to be like. The first thing is start small and keep it simple. Anyone who's been around IT or business projects for a while knows that they grow and get bigger over time. And those are the prime candidates for projects that fail. And so the sooner you can get out and start really kicking the tires on your process, the sooner you're going to know what you really want. All the design and flowcharts and things in the world are not going to hold up to real world users, and that's when you're going to know what your workflow really should be. So the sooner you can get it going, the better and faster. And so I always recommend it's great to have identified what are the different areas and processes that we have, but pick one first and just start there and start small and start simple. either pick one that is causing you the most pain, or pick one that's very easy to implement if you're new to this. The key is to get out there and get going. And we really want to try to cut down on paper and manual processes. They're very error prone, they're time consuming, things get lost and you don't know where you are. And things are in people's heads and in inboxes and on paper notes. So you want to really gather that data. This is a really great chance to think about not what your business rules just are, but what should they be. And so you want to assert those really well. And that's what the workflow is going to do for you in the process of onboarding. So one of the key things as well you're going to notice is that you probably have a lot of different systems involved, and you're going to want to integrate and move data between them. That is one of the key ideas here, is not just to have, you want your system that is doing the onboarding workflow to be that central orchestration and one source of truth where everyone can come and see what is the state of things. But that doesn't mean you're only going to use one system. You're going to have data that's in HR systems, Salesforce, prospecting systems, that kind of stuff. And we're in an incredible time. Everything has an integration now. Everything has an API now. Data can move and flow freely. But you want something to be that central starting point. Next slide, Alex. So with that said, it's a demo. Let's jump in and take a look. I'll tell you a little bit about what we're going to see today and why we've picked this. We had a challenge ourselves, and that was that as we've been growing as a startup and as a company, we have a lot of clients who see the technology and they love it, except they don't have time. They want the hole and not the drill, and they're very eager to get going. So a lot of times they're asking us to help do implementations for them. And we found that our implementation teams are pretty much at capacity. We realized that we know and have relationships with a lot of really great firms out there over the years, and they would be prime candidates to partner with us and take over some of these implementations. Only thing is, it's not just that they know the technology, but we need to know that they can be counted on and that they're the right fit for the client. And it depends. There's very large enterprises we work with, and there's smaller organizations and businesses and things like that. And so really wanting to make sure that we've got the right fit. We know who we have, they're trained, they understand the technology, and they know how to deliver and execute. And so we said, okay, well, let's start now and start getting people onboarded. And as we were doing that, a lot of cooks in the kitchen, things flying around, conversations happening, left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing sometimes. So we said, why don't we eat our own dog food and let's automate this. And so that's what we're going to see today. So what you're seeing here is our Plant an App homepage. And this is really the entry point. So we have many ambitions for what we want to do with our partner onboarding process. Everything all the way up to a whole training academy where we can certify partners, profile them, have a capability where clients can come and talk about what type of project they're looking to do. And we'll pair them up and match them with a partner. But going back to the starting small and starting where you are, first kind of step, and for us, we'll start at the beginning. When someone raises their hand and says, I'm interested in being a partner, one of the first things we do, we want to have a conversation and we want to talk and see if they're a right fit. Before we have that conversation, we like to see that everyone feels safe and secure. So we sign a mutual NDA with each other. And that way we can speak freely and share our secrets and everyone's okay. That NDA takes a lot of time to generate and go in and change and put names and dates and things like that. So we said that's the first thing we want to automate, but not just the creation of the document, the delivery of it, the receipt of it, knowing that we've gotten a partner. So we said, let's just start at the beginning in our case, and we're going to take things up from the moment someone raises their hand today until we get on the phone and we have that conversation. Different workflows will come after that. But today we're just going to focus on getting the conversation started. And so when a new partner comes, they come to our website and they click on partners. And there is a form down at the bottom, interested in becoming a partner. And we'll go ahead and we'll just jump in. I'm going to show you the experience first, and then we'll take a look under the hood and how it was built. So everything starts in a interesting concept as we're kind of setting the stage for looking at how things were done, is that, and I was kind of speaking to, you're not just going to have one system. The technologies can talk to each other. So our website is completely separate from the application we're going to see. And that's okay, because through APIs and our workflows, they can talk. And so what happens when they fill out the form, what we want to do is, get this filled out. We want to make sure that they know and we acknowledge that we've received their request. Two things at once here. Let's get this in. We like to know up front what size, what type of organization they are. And so we're not just going to do a confirmation message on the screen. We're not just going to send an email that says, hey, we've gotten your request, but we want to go ahead and get the process started, right? And so once they sign up, we go ahead and get that NDA generated and out to them. We want to notify ourselves that someone's interested and that that NDA is outstanding for signature. So we can follow up, so we can check on that. And there's other processes that can kind of tickle the contact along the way and make sure things keep moving if they get stuck. And so multiple things will happen once I submit this. One, as the person signing up, and I should actually put my email in. So I'll be getting two emails here. One is going to be the one that notifies us as PlantinApp that someone raised their hand. We'll also get a SMS text message sent that says someone has signed up and raised their hand. But then also Sterling Cooper here is going to get an email, and it's going to say, hey, acknowledged, take a minute, fill out this NDA, and once you sign it, we'll be able to get things going. So let's take a look at how that's going to work. Had my fields backwards. Okay, so it's letting you know the email was sent. Notice that Gmail gets really slow when we're sharing in Zoom. I don't know if anyone else has that. Wow. Okay, so you see there's two emails. First one, new partner request from PlantinApp. Sterling Cooper is interested. I can click here and I can go take a look and see who this is. Before I do, we'll see that Sterling got an email letting him know, hey, thanks. And that before you join the partner network, we need to have a conversation and we need you to sign the NDA. We've made it really easy and people don't have to edit PDFs or anything like that. They can just do an electronic signature. So I review the terms and then I'll sign the document. I have an opportunity to correct my information if I want. Didn't want to capture everything up front, tried to keep it light in the beginning. And also this digital signature, one of the things when this happens, it's not really about what you drew on the screen, but that you've recorded the IP address and other information, key digital fingerprint information that's been left. And that legally does count as a signature. That's pretty standard now. So just know that it's not so much that you're drawing the line. It's an act that goes along with the fingerprint that's been captured and left behind. So now that I've signed the NDA, a text message will go out letting us know that that's been signed. We'll also get the email. But Sterling will get an email, and he has one more thing that we want him to do. So he gets a copy for his records. Signatures are all there. We're all ready to go. Now we can have that conversation. And then we let him know, hey, take a minute. And again, this is part of that where you can bring all the different technologies kind of together very quickly. And so we have an application here where we publish calendar, and you can find a free slot that works for you and works for us, and you'll book the meeting. We'll be notified. Things will move from there. All part of various workflows in this process. And you can also see I have a Google Voice number set up here, just so it'll forward me emails of text messages. And you can see those are coming through as well. So now let's take a look at the actual partner application. So first thing I see, and one of the things you really want to do when you're pulling all this together is really give a central spot where all your information comes together. That ends up, and you'd be surprised how fast things can grow and how complex they can get. And so you want to keep it simple and you want to keep it targeted. Knowing who your user is and what role they're in will target the right information at them. You can make things actionable. And so you can see that things that need attention and stand out. So from this dashboard, though, we have a chance to take a look at our pipeline and our workflow. One of the most important things you want to do in all of this, and I can't stress this enough, is from the very beginning, data is key. Thinking about what you want to call things and name things and be consistent is important, but most important is really have your process and your system emit data as an exhaust that you can scoop up and harvest. Even if you don't know what you're going to do with the data right now, you'll figure it out later. Always capture that data and always be born in your processes emitting that data. And actionable data is the key, right? So just saying that a thing happened is different than putting it into a context. So there's a couple of things you can look at. We want to know, is our system running? Is the workflow working, right? So that's, I would say, system information. But you really, and I think a lot of systems and a lot of people do a good job of that, logging errors and bugs and that sort of stuff. But the real information I'm talking about is the telemetry that is around the process itself, right? And not just that a person did a thing, but that a person wanted to do a thing. Get both of those. You'll be able to see things like your cycle times, your lead times, your turnarounds. You'll see where people are abandoning. It's you know, in e-commerce, these are your funnels that you see. But processes have the same thing. And you know, you'll start finding opportunities to tune and adjust and tweak. As long as you're logging that data up front, go, be fast, get out there, start experimenting, start using. And that data is going to kind of be that feedback loop is going to tell you what you build next, not your roadmap. And so made it kind of easy here on the dashboard, just kind of navigating around. I can see that I've gotten leads. If I want to see NDAs that have been sent out, I can click, it'll filter here. I can view details about the activities. It's just the latest stuff that's happened. For convenience, have a quick search where I can pull up and take a look at information that's coming in, working with the data, really without having to go and dig into a menu system, right? I really want that stuff accessible to me. And so we have some little bit of metrics and analytics here. You can see flows of information coming in, what this week's looks like compared to last week's. You can start setting goals and targets and things like that around this information. And so the application is other than this dashboard, it's, and like most applications, they really start with that block and tackle, what they call CRUD, create, read, update, delete. And that's the stuff that takes a lot of time, right? And when you're building software, before you can ever get to a screen like this or ever get to trying out a process, there's so many things that need to be table stakes items that need to be put into place. Who are my users? What are the rules? What's my security? I need web pages. I need forms. I need grids or listings. These are the standard things that take a lot of time up front. And so one of the cool things about low code and Plant an App, and a lot of what I'm talking about today, to be fair, can be done in other systems as well. And there's all low code systems aren't created equal. There's some that specialize just in workflow, but then they lack in other things. We're very well-rounded, kind of we call ourselves like a Swiss Army knife. And you get a lot of different capabilities here. Many companies really use more than one low-code platform, especially the examples like if you have very, very complex workflow needs, hundreds of workflows along the way that need to be managed and have staff managing them. Perhaps a workflow management system is better for you, right? For most people though, and automating processes and getting going fast, this is gonna be absolutely excellent capabilities. What you're getting around that though, and what Plant an App does, is it starts with your data and really thinking about, okay, so I know which processes I wanna target, what information do I need to capture, right? And one of the things you'll see, especially when you're going, when you're moving fast and you're being iterative, is that things are fluid, right? You will know more tomorrow than you know today. Embrace that. Get out there today so you can start getting the information of tomorrow, and just know that that data is going to be fluid. There's going to be things you missed. There's going to be things you added that maybe don't make sense or you don't need. You need the ability to make data, put data in and out of circulation very quickly and easily. And one of the things when we talked about how long, Alex had mentioned, how long does it take to ship a single line of code? And due to process and different things, that can take a very long time. In the low code world, I always like to say, if you had to just change one piece of data on the screen, how long does that take? That's the real kind of measure. And as you go and you mature, it becomes harder and harder to change that information. It's very easy in the beginning, but you can end up painting yourself in a bit of a corner if you don't think about your data and be consistent in how you're using it. So just be mindful of that, and you really want to be on the lookout for. And with Plant an App, it's one of its greatest strengths is that it's very, very fluid and focused on making new data available everywhere, right? If I just added a new field, I've got forms that needs to go on, I've got reports, I've got APIs, I've got workflows. All of that is projected and injected out for you by the system. So aside from this, and I'll just give you a quick tour of the system, and then we'll jump in and take a look under the hood and really see how do you bring the technology and the process automation together. So, and this is what I meant. As far as a block and tackle type application goes, when you're getting going, you really just need the ability to see the information, to add the information, edit the information. So from here, I can look at my organizations if I pick one, and we've related a lot of information. I think right now for us, this concept of an organization and this system plans for the future is that it's not just going to hold partners, but why not hold everyone? Why would I have my clients in a separate system that I have to sign into? So you can build apps within the platform and share information between them. So kind of in planning for that, went with this concept of an organization. And that's probably the most pivotal data entity that everything else revolves around. So you'll see that there's a lot of related things there, right? And I've got, contacts, I've got links, I've got files, and more. And so this is where things come together. I can always get to and see my contacts. And key thing too is you want to, back to that, making sure you're getting good data, right? Free text is a killer. Anyone who's had to work with spreadsheets or anything like that has lived that pain, and you get into a lot of data cleanup and things. We really want that data actionable, which means that it's queryable. And so things like statuses and key pieces of information that are either going to connect two worlds of data together or are going to drive things in your process, you really want to have be part of a relational data. Have an ID, have a number, have something that is solid there. It's not going to change. People are always going to change their mind about what they want to see on the screen, what they want things called. So you want to take control of that up front, and you want to have the ability to manage drop downs, look up lists, relationships, things like that. That's one of the areas where things can get away from you very, very quickly. And you'd be surprised how much database and tables and things that generates. And so that's one of the great things about Plantain App, and what it'll do for you is create all of that and let you link up. And just in the menu here underneath, you can see for any one of these things, I have a whole lot of things that I can manage, and I can, you know, if I want to change an organization status or add a new one here, it's as simple as adding it. It'll show up in the list. If I want to change what it is, I can, and that'll propagate everywhere without breaking any of my relationships. And so can't stress enough, data is key. And you want to make sure from the beginning that you're getting good data in, and that you're also leaving yourself a trail of good information. And so every time a workflow runs, a state changes, we move through the workflow. We don't just want to say that that happened. We want to say going into it that this is what I'm intending to do. And then we want to record the result afterwards. So that's going to give us a couple of things right off the bat, right? One, how long do things take? Two, maybe the system didn't generate an error. Maybe, you know, we have friction in the user experience. They're just getting a message. They can't get past something. And that's not going to be caught in your standard logging. And so you can see where things are getting orphaned or abandoned if you're kind of creating that data sandwich before you take key actions. So it's kind of saying, I have intent, and then I completed. And then you'll always know where you stand. And you can kind of see how many steps are actually being executed. You can see which workflows are running the most, performance, maybe there's opportunities for tuning. So you really want to take a minute, and that's where I would say the two things you want to do up front. And then we'll jump in and we'll take a look behind the scenes here and see how this is done. But you want to make sure that, yes, round up all the different processes at a macro level. Chunk up, I call that. But then pick one and chunk down, and then break them down. What is the process today? If you can, how long does it take? Because that'll get you a feel for, you know, how much effort do you put in? If something's taking 10 minutes and you're able to turn it into 5, and it happens twice a week, it's not worth doing, right? There's better hanging fruit that you can pick. And so having that up front is key. And then 2, emitting that data and that good clean trail throughout. So you want to, that's the 2 things I would say, because you can move very fast and you will, but that's the 2 things you want to take a minute and try to get right. You won't get it all the way right, and it's okay. You'll iterate through that, but know that going in, and you won't paint yourself into that corner. And so in the system, one of the neat things about Plantain App as well is that it's all web-based, cloud hosted, including where you actually do your application building and the low code work. And it's all part of the same system, depending on which user type you are and role you have, which I'm a privileged user here. Citizen developer is a term you'll hear a lot. Low code engineer is the other. And these are the people that are really assembling the applications and putting all the pieces together. And so for us, that happens here in configuration. And when you click that, you're kind of getting another screen, and you're going behind the scenes. You get kind of overview of the different areas, all kind of listed out, and they go in an order, right? And really, to get started building an application, you got to have the idea, know what you're doing. I want to do digital onboarding. I want to make, is it a better experience for my customers? I want to have a faster onboarding cycle. I want to reduce errors, churn, that sort of stuff. What is it that I'm really trying to solve for with my app? And then who's the user, right? We talk about, you hear about personas, you know, but know that the system is a persona. Your company, in our case, our sales team are a persona, and then the people raising their hand and our partners are personas. And we want to be thinking about all of them when we build our process and when we build our system. The data model is the key thing, and this is where the real app building begins, and we'll jump in and take a look. And this is where you really explain to the system, what is the data that I'm going to have and how does it relate? And once you have that, really you have an application. Plantain App will go and generate your pages for you, your database for you, APIs for you, your roles, everything is there. You're signed in. In 5 minutes, if you were making just a simple tracker, you would have it. What do you want to do with that though? Getting beyond just having a place to put in and take out data, the application flow and the logic is where that comes in. So let's take a quick look. General, this is just a section where you can name your application. You can change the logo for it, just a few things there. You'll notice here version control. This is a super, super powerful feature, and I believe we're the only platform right now on the market that has this. And you'll see that it integrates with GitHub. Cool thing about low code is that you don't have to check in and out code and merge things and stuff like that. A little bit of, and many people can work on the same thing at the same time. A little bit of a downside to that is sometimes you trip over each other, right? And there's unintended consequences. It's still software development. And so knowing who did what and knowing what the differences between things are is super helpful. And so we have this integration with GitHub, and you can see all of the pages in my application are here. Every time they're touched, who touched them. Same thing with my code, my database, my workflows, all coming in here. Working on a two-way integration right now where you'll be able to come and kind of push button to roll back changes or spin up whole other environments and say, you know, I'm getting ready to do kind of a big change and I want to try something, right? And that's the beauty of cloud, is that you can push a button, have an exact copy of what you have today and go do what you want. And when you're done with it, you can spin it down. You will have through GitHub the changes and integration you made, and you don't need to go recreate them all by hand again. So roles, the system comes with a few out of the box. And really, like I said, the citizen developer, the admins, they're the ones that can get here behind the scenes, under the hood. They have access and they can see all data and information in the system. And then we give you kind of a manager. And they, you know, they do a little bit less. They're not really building the system. They still have access to all that information. And then you can define your own. So in our case here in this application, I've got a partner role, wanting to open up the portal to partners. They can come, we can have other processes, they can update their profile, we can do shared project management, this sort of stuff. And so having that role and having people be able to have access to their information and what's going on in their world. So we've predefined that, set up for that now ahead of time to be born for that, but you can always add them later and the system will handle that. And then there's just a standard basic user of the application. Everyone kind of gets this, and it's really your, what they call least privileged trust. This is the user that just, if I was gonna see the bare minimum things in this application, I can't edit anything, I can't do anything out of the box. This is that. This really means I can access the site. User management, we can create users, assign the roles here. Now we get into the magic. So entities really is where you model, it's your data model. And you can see the relationships that we have here in all the various tables and structure. Plantain App is built on a relational Microsoft SQL Server database for folks that are a little more technical. And so these are those relations. You can connect to other data sources, other database providers, or even move your data around through APIs. But the core data you're defining when you're using the Plantain App interface is going to be SQL Server. And so we'll take a look at our concept of contacts. And first thing you do is you just name it. I can give it a plural and the system will use that. The system also likes to be visual. And so throughout the system, when you're defining things, you can pick like a font. And there's a whole library built in. You can also hook up your own of visually what would this look like. And then the system will sprinkle that in and use it throughout. And your eye and your user's eye will start getting trained to see and recognize things easier. So the properties, this is really your data elements. You get a handful of them out of the box, and this ensures that things are going to connect, that your security and your privileges and things are going to work right. And back to that, emitting that good actionable data as an exhaust, always knowing who created this record, who owns it in that sense, when did they create it, and when was it last touched, and who last touched it, right? So you're going to get that, and you're going to know that always. Just that is very valuable. All kinds of things, even randomly, who are my power users, who's most active in the system, who contributes the most to data, this changed, who did it. You have that everywhere, and you always want that everywhere in every system you're working with or building. You need that audit trail to know what's what. And so now we get to the custom data. These are the elements that you can define, right? And so you see like first name, last name, and then we get into some concepts that are a little more complex. And we'll take a look. We give you out of the box what we call these primitives. These are your basic data types. They're very user-friendly to read. In this sense, we're trying to say, is this an email address, right? But behind the scenes, the system is actually creating the right data types, and automatically, if I pick a phone number, all of the forms and things like that are going to have the right validations and things like that put in for you automatically. So big time savers there. But you'll also see that there's this concept of entities, and that's what we're looking at now. And you can, this is what I was saying, when you want to connect, you can make an entity that is for the statuses, right? These are my contact statuses. And when I pick to connect to that, now the system will automatically make that relationship and make sure that if you try to delete a status that is connected, it won't let that happen, right? So you're not going to end up with bad data, and the system kind of protects you from that. It's some guardrails that it'll put around there for you. But you can also do lists of entities. And this is like, if I'm on an organization, I'm saying, who are the contacts? There's more than one. I'm not picking one out of a list. I'm picking maybe many. And so this will also build that relationship. That's what generates those tabs that we were looking at on the screen. So we just define here. One last thing, we're not kind of done yet. You can also decide, hey, is this data going to be searchable, filterable, sortable? That's what we were seeing when we were looking at those listings and grids. And all of them are driven kind of out of the box. And our aim here is to not build you a robotic, just a simple application, but to get you to the good part, right? Get all that block and tackle stuff out of the way. Going back to the collaboration, instead of sitting in a room and whiteboarding a flow, you can actually build a flow. You can actually define a few data elements and sit with your stakeholders, your business users, whoever are going to be your personas, and do it together and see the software happen live together. And last thing, you also have the ability to secure access to the data. And so based on those roles, you can say, partners, for example, can only view their own entries. They can only edit their own entries. Regular standard users out of the box can't do any of that, right? And so now we've defined, our data elements, how they connect and relate, and give them permissions. The moment I do that, your application is generated and live, and you now can get in there and start doing the good stuff, like building the workflows. And let's just jump back for 1 second and take a look and say, okay, so when that user filled out that form and they hit that submit button, a lot of stuff happened, right? And all that happened on the form when I pushed that button is we said, I want to run my workflow. And I pass a little bit of information in, and the workflow takes care of the rest. So let's take a look at what those workflows look like and where that happens. We really recommend using a standard. It's an international standard. It's called BPMN. And we use an open source library called BPMN.io. Which then implements that standard. It's not just a technology standard, it's a business standard. And so words matter, and knowing what an activity is, what an action is, what a process flow is, this sort of stuff is gonna help everyone unite around a common language and what we call things. So when I say I'm speaking about this, we all are speaking about the same thing. And these workflows can be very simple, and you can make yourself these reusable components. For example, we have an integration with Twilio in our platform, and that's what's sending the SMSs. There's a lot of SMS ability and opportunities to send notifications and things like that. rather than build those into each individual workflow, I can make a simple workflow that's just for sending text messages. Has a couple actions to it, and it's just basically going to say, hey, what's the number you're sending this to, and what's your message? And then your output will give you back a result, right? So now in my other flows, I can make use of this, and we'll take a look at maybe a more complex one. So we generated that request NDA is the one when they hit that button and submit the form. So what happens? Well, first thing, I create a new contact. And Plantin-App, when I first started working with Plantin-App and this technology, and I've had several teams of people that have built and done incredible things. You really can punch above your weight class. I've had junior developers, interns, project managers, business analysts make excellent citizen developers. And what I always tell them is it's a little bit of an Apple experience, right? If you know how to use iTunes, you know how to use pretty much any application in the Apple world. They did that on purpose. And Plantin-App is built the same way. The key to Plantin-App is this concept of actions. And so all we're really doing in our workflows is putting logic with actions. And these actions, there are hundreds of them, everything from updating our data to simple things like sending emails and messages to way more complex ones like calling APIs, securing data, generating PDFs and documents, this sort of thing. But they're all going to always give you this screen. Everything is, we try to build and have a self-documenting system. So everything you need to do is spelled out and laid out for you, even with examples of what you need to do here. We do have documentation and plenty of it and videos and things like that, but we're trying to bring that to you at the moment of interaction so you're not having to go other places. And you just configure these actions. There's a tokening language that we use. Anything that has these brackets around it are basically like my variables, and I can use them throughout the system. And so in this case, this was the first name and last name that we got off the form. It's available to me to use. So now I'm saying, hey, go ahead and create a contact. And we even give you actions that are really running the queries, right? So there's also an action for running SQL or executing queries or an API. But we said, hey, for all the entities you've built and defined in Plantin-App, we're going to make it really easy to read information, delete, edit, update, that sort of stuff. And it's as simple as just passing your data into it, and the system already knows what it wants. In the interest of time, I'm going to move through these a little bit quicker, but you'll see in our process then, and you can define these, you could go from whiteboard right to here. You don't need to configure the action. And I would recommend coming here and actually map your workflow out right here. One, it becomes a repository and a knowledge source of your workflows and what happens. You can come and fill them in after when you're ready to start going. But I would start up front here and start flowing things out, capturing, naming, see how many you have. Is there an opportunity to consolidate? All of this can be done iteratively once you get going. So we create the contact. We create, and this is part of that logging that data trail. We have a little, and it was an entity, and it's just a little register of activities. Here we put one in that says, hey, I've got a request to sign an NDA. I'm going to send an email out back to the lead and say, hey, here's the link so you can sign that. I'm going to create an activity that says, I did that. I'm going to create another activity that is notifying us that that was done. See, so I'm in one move, I've left 3 crumbs for myself to follow and know, did I go through all of this? Did it all happen? And then these activities have a state. When they sign, I can go mark that as done. And I know when was that start, when was it created, when was it updated. I now know how long it took to complete that step. The workflows can also be much more complex. And you can see things like signing the NDA. A lot of things happen here, right? Once they sign, I update the contact information. We send some data and then do a split, a logical split. You can branch these many different ways. But I say, if I know who the organization is that gave me that information, let's go ahead and create the organization now as well and link up some of the data and link the contact to that organization. Otherwise, they just gave me their contact information. That's fine, I'll update that. I bring the flows back together. So I kind of took 2 paths based on the data I got. I updated accordingly. But now I'm saying, regardless of that, it's time to unify again. And so I'm calling another workflow from within this workflow. And that was like that example I was talking about with sending the SMSs, right? So that generate NDA workflow we just looked at. Now that I have all their information, they're in the system, there's a placeholder for them, I know who they are. Now I can use that information to actually create their NDA into the PDF. Then I'll send them the email. I'll send an email to sales that says that happened. I'll update my workflow status. I'll upload the file to a repository, so it's not just in an email, but people can come and access it after the fact, and it's there. Maybe we regenerated a new version. We wanted to change some verbiage. I have the old one, and I'm always tied right back to that fingerprint of when they stamped it, right? And there's some information there that lets me know this person really did sign this document. We do some updates of our logs, and then the workflow is done. And so that's the workflows. Want to be mindful of time and our questions. There's a lot more here, and we can talk more, perhaps a webinar another time to take a look at the other capabilities, but I do want to take a minute and see if anyone has some questions, would like to see something. And so let's open it up.
We thank you for that, Reza. Thank you for going through all of this. We do have one question from Lee Hinman, and I think that Bogdan is the right person to answer this.
Yes. Yeah. So hello everyone. We do have a question. What is the integration to DNN? So some people in this webinar come from the DNN space. Some do not know about it. So DNN is this open source platform built with .NET that gives us the foundation of PlanterNet. So from DNN, we have the user management, the permissions, and it's a robust platform. It's been originally developed by Microsoft maybe 15 years ago, and it's been in the open source community ever since. So it's quite mature and secured and used in a lot of enterprises, mostly like that as a basis to build the application upon. Yeah, we have another question. I think this one is for you, Alex, about the recording of this webinar.
Just a second, I'm trying to find where it is.
Yeah, so Kenneth Thoms asked about will the recording be available at some point?
Yes, of course. We will follow up with a recording to this webinar if everyone's okay with that, and we'll also follow up with a short survey to find out what's interesting for you guys for the future. Because we are planning on doing more activities like this. So yeah, we will follow up with it.
Another question is from Josh. What third-party services are available as connector? You mentioned Twilio for sending text messages. Are there others that are supported? Yes, so we have quite a few integrations. We added more recently, so I will start backwards. So recently we added the Twitter integration. We are also just about to release a Slack integration to post to Slack channels, which creates a nice interactivity to processes by notifying people where they already communicate as a team. We have other integration like FedEx is something, again, that is new to track packages. But we also have like a lot that we had before, like Salesforce integrations, Dynamic CRM, some payment providers like Authorize.net, Stripe, PayPal, this kind of things. Some are related to marketing automation like MailChimp or Constant Contact. So we have quite a bit of them, and I'll be happy to follow up on email to give you a complete list.
So a lot of questions popping in.
Yeah. Another question is this only a SaaS or will be able to host your own system and maintain upgrade it over time? So we have both models. we are cloud first, so when you go to Plant App and sign up for an account, it will create it for you on the cloud. But we also have the on-premise option, and the on-premise option can be deployed fresh as a new install, but it also can be installed on existing DNS systems to enrich it with these new functionalities. So it will not affect what you already have in there, but you'll get the new features like the workflows or the GitHub integrations working on top of what's already there. Another question from Linda, and I think this one would be for you, Reza. How long did it take to build this application that we just shown?
So there's kind of two parts to that question, and so I'll try to answer it both ways. The overall time that we've worked on this is probably about a couple of weeks, but the actual over the span of 2 weeks, I would say it was probably a total of a week worth of work for about 1.5 people, right? So 40 hours. And the key to that though is, like I said, in 5 minutes, you're up and running with a live application, all your database, all your stuff. You know, apps, and I always kind of think about this with Plant an App, right? Where does this app come from? An app is something that it's very easy to get going, and it starts small, right? But as you nurture it and take care of it, it's always growing, it's always evolving, it's always changing. It's never done until it's not an app anymore. And so a lot of that dashboard and some of the pretty tiles and little badges and things you saw, that was the fun stuff, right? And that's where a lot of the work went in. But I think an app like this and just taking it to this initial step is something that you can do in about a week. No problem. Person have someone to help you test and maybe take care of some of the front end while someone's building the workflows. But so person or two for a week.
Okay, thank you, Reza. So we have another question. When you build an app, where does it live? Can I host it on my regular hosting environment, or does it remain hosted with you somewhere? So I guess I already asked this question. It can be on cloud, where it's maintained by us, upgraded by us, backed up by us, so it's fully maintained, or it can be on premise. And then if it's on premise, it can be either a fresh install of Plant an App, or it can be deployed on existing DNN instances to enrich it, like I was saying earlier, with new systems, with new functionalities. So you could get you could get only the workflow piece, use only the workflow piece with whatever you already had in your system. Another question also about related about the clouded version is if people get their own instance or it is a shared instance. So we always do isolated instances because here is mostly about apps, security, internal data processes. So all the apps are isolated. Sorry, they are only shared on the free plan. We stopped the free plan for now, but we'll re-release it soon. So on the free plan, it's shared. But other than that, we isolate its separate virtual machines. And same, another question that continues to this, what about the database? Is it separated or is it shared? The same thing about the database. It's a separate database. The SQL Server might be shared, and for the smaller plan, it is shared, but the security and everything, it's applied at each database, so they cannot access one another databases.
And I would add a quick note onto that. There's two sets of data to think about. One is about the application itself, where your workflows are stored, your roles, your users, that sort of thing. The other is the entities, the data you're defining and connecting. You have the ability to specify and have those live in separate databases if you like, so that you can keep the application data separate from your business process data if you want it.
Yep. We got another question coming in about what is the pricing model. So we have two pricing models. One is on the website. So if you go to theplantapp.com, it's based per user. But we also have a partner pricing, which usually involves a per developer fee, plus a much smaller fee for the systems that the partner builds. So if you are interested in the partner model that's not on the website, just drop us an email and we can I can send you the info and we can take it from there. And another question: where are you hosted? Is it Azure? So right now we are not on Azure, we are on AWS because we started this infrastructure a long time ago and we matured it. We are also like an AWS advanced technology partner. So then we are experts in AWS. We are working on adding Azure as an option as well. We joined the Microsoft for Startups program, so we have good support, both in terms of technical enablement, but also on the business enablement. So another question that comes from Dennis, is Plantain App utilizing the DNN Sharp modules to make all of this work? So for people in this webinar that do not know what DNN Sharp is, DNN Sharp is our previous business from where Plantain App spinned off. So we are using 60% of the technology that we already had and matured for many years, and it's been currently used for over 4,000 organizations around the world. So yes, part of the screens that you are seeing, like the forms or the APIs, they used to be components or DNN Sharp modules, how people know them.
Neat thing though, for the DNN Sharp users, what Plantain App's really doing is bringing all that together for you into one place, making it a very cohesive experience. So you're seeing, you know, instead of having to go and do this work and hunt and peck and find things, it's all brought together, but it's the same things that you've always seen. It's the workflows it orchestrates around DNN Sharp.
Okay. I see we don't have any more questions. We answered all of them. If you have any more questions, please type them now. If not, we can just have Reza add some closing notes on everything that you showed us today.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap then. So
Yep.
I want to thank everyone. Know a lot was thrown at you, but we've just scratched the surface. My main advice, don't be intimidated. That's the beauty of doing this with a low code and is that you can move fast, you can fail fast. The key is to get that feedback loop created, and that feedback comes in the form of that data as exhaust. So get out there, build your first workflow, start using it. It'll be better than the manual process you have now. And then you'll iterate. You'll really see what's needed once the rubber meets the road.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot for being here and looking forward to build great things together.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck. Bye.